My name is Earl J. Kohler. I served in the U.S. Navy. When I was discharged in May of 1947, by then the war had been over for about a year and a half. So we were no longer the returning war heroes. We were now looked at more as competitors for the jobs, the cars, the homes, the available women, right? You know, whatever it was. And so it was better to wear civilian clothes.
I'm Don Long. I was also Navy. The first 50 years, 40 or 50 years, we did not talk about it. That the sights that we saw and things that happened, they're not the kind of thing you talk with your young children about. They're not often very happy things, and so we kind of steered away from it.
I'm Dan Helix. I served in the Army, enlisted as a private, January 12, 1948, retired as a Major General, August 31st, 1989, Airborne Infantry. I knew I had changed in the military. I think that when you have a experience, especially in combat, yeah, it does change you. I think that in some cases it can be even transformational.
It was difficult after I got back from Vietnam. I had a great deal of pride in the service that I had done. And so it took me several years to kind of resolve the conflict that I had between my experience in Vietnam and the way it was portrayed to the public.
They said, by the way, if you've gone into the city, don't wear your uniforms. I go, what? So you don't want to wear your uniforms, you get in trouble. And I was really, and that's when you've heard cases of military people being spit on and stuff. And it was true.
Obviously, we don't have the same struggles as the guys who came back from Vietnam and the way the public treated them. But I think the struggle is that there's not as many of us, which makes it difficult when you get out because you don't have that person to relate to.
My name is Brian McGill. I served in the Army from 1986 to 1992. I'm a Desert Storm veteran. We love this country. All the camaraderie, all the discipline wasn't there anymore. It was now I had to do it all on my own. I didn't have somebody else helping me.
Huge change from going from military life to civilian life. And I came from a military family, so I knew that was gonna happen, but even with that knowledge, it didn't matter. It was still a time of kind of great unknowns and, you know, personal development.
I felt a little bit lost, honestly, at the beginning. My career was steady, my home was steady, everything was steady. It was just the mindset that it took me a couple of months to really realize that it was over.
I was pretty, I don't want to say disgruntled, but maybe not as, I wanted to kind of leave the military behind. I think my experience, I didn't embrace it very much, and I definitely wanted to forget a lot of things. I completely wanted to move on from the military and do something else, but I found that to be very difficult.
You know, after 6 months, I was okay with, you know, not having to talk about it all the time, or knowing that it's something near and dear to my heart, and that's okay. Like, if it's not the first thing that's off my tongue every day, it's okay. You know, I still am a Marine, I'm still a veteran, and my experience is still true and valid.
I've learned to adapt to not being in a structure, you know, making my own rules, living by my way.
Each generation that has served can take pride in the fact that they represented their country. And I think having the anniversary points out that we do take the time to recognize that service. So it's an important milestone.
Armistice Day always was a day of some kind of celebration in the little towns where we grew up.
To have Armistice Day have been transitioned to a Memorial Day essentially just for veterans, because Memorial Day is separate, and this is just a day that highlights what veterans have done, I think there's some significance to that. And so you have a day that represents a day of peace, from a very, very violent conflict at the turn of the last, or beginning of the last century. I think that's very important, and that transcends to today, because we have this tradition in this day that all veterans can be recognized for whatever their efforts, no matter whether they went overseas or they didn't, or they fought or they didn't, their service and their sacrifice is honored and recognized.
My father was a World War II veteran. In fact, he served in Pearl Harbor. When he came home from World War II, his experience was extremely different than my experience coming home from Vietnam. And yet, the experience that my son had coming back from Iraq was very different. So I can see the veteran experience from very different perspectives. I think the way veterans are seen today is much different than when I came home from Vietnam, and I'm very grateful for that.
Many times I've had people, thank you for your service and all that, and maybe sometimes it sounds a little superfluous, but it's nice to hear. I'll tell you, it's nice to hear.
Just keep supporting the veterans. I think that's very important. And it is recognized, and it is a lot of vets I talk to do appreciate it.
Because you get the classic line, the thank you for your service, and that's fine. I think for a lot of people, even though that's kind of been made into a cliche, I still appreciate it, even though I know, because sometimes that's the only way people know how to convey their gratitude, because they don't understand what it was like to be a veteran, and they're not going to, and that's okay. But to just say something as little as that goes a long way, and then for people to understand the true meaning of Veterans Day, just from an educational standpoint, is important, because that also conveys to me that, if as someone who is not a veteran, that you care.
I think people, the way that they can truly honor us is that knowing that the veteran experience for a lot of us is something that we've known a lot of people who have sacrificed everything for this country. And you don't have to be a veteran to at least recognize and understand that. And I think that people, when they truly take the time out of their day, just for 1 second out of their busy lives, to recognize, okay, this person put their life on the line and probably knows a lot of people who did give the ultimate sacrifice. If they are able to just recognize that, and if they see a veteran and just thank them truly for their service, I think that is more than enough that I think the average person in society can do.
We're not always recognizable. We don't wear this kind of stuff all the time. But when they do, we're not looking for pity. We're not looking for sympathy. Just a thank you. Thank you for your service. A handshake. That's all that's needed, right? And between us old vets, just a salute once in a while.
I guess that's the best that I can answer that without Google or research in front of me. Yeah. Okay.
How was that?
Was there anything you'd like to?